Hey friends, Happy New Year. I want to talk about all the books that I read in 2025. I read a total of 26 books and I just want to chat about it. So go ahead and grab something cozy to drink, maybe a tea, your coffee, a soda pop, whatever, and let's chat about some books. This was not my best reading year. I think last year I read like 34. In 2026, my goal is to read 40 because that'll be like the most books that I've ever read in a year. So that is my goal. Tell me what your reading goal is for 2026. I'd love to hear it. Okay, so the first book that I read this year was Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This book was about a troubled marriage. This couple goes on a weekend getaway to Scotland in the dead of winter, and a lot of secrets come out. Honestly, the book didn't really stick with me too much. Like, I can barely remember it. I did end up giving it 2 stars. It was good for what I needed it for, which was just like a quick, easy popcorn thriller read. And other than that, it didn't really stick with me too much. The second book was The Crash by Frida McFadden. And this was about a pregnant woman who crashes her car during a blizzard storm. Thankfully, she does get saved by this man who she is absolutely terrified by. He's like a big flannel wearing, axe throwing type of guy. She is terrified, but he has a wife at home, gets her to this like secluded cabin with him and his wife, and I think her leg is broken. She's in really bad shape. Plus she's pregnant, which just adds to the fear element and the thrilling element of it, of like surviving and escapism and attempting to stay alive and not knowing who to trust. She is like locked in their basement for a long period of time and they refuse to get her help. Did give this a 2-star. Then I switched up the pace a little bit with my reading and started a LGBTQ fantasy series. Well, I only read the first book, but it is a series, but it's Wolf Song by TJ Klune. I gave it a 4 stars. Like, I had a really fun time. It is about werewolves. It's about this displaced teenage boy that has a lot of abandonment issues and insecurities, just is having a hard time. A new family moves in right next door, and he ends up building a connection with this family. They have young sons. They are very like family oriented, and he craves that. He ends up spending a lot of time with them, gets really connected, and there's like a loyalty there. This family, no surprise, is a pack of werewolves. The story is really beautiful. It is about found family and love and loyalty and devotion. There is a bit of a weird part though, which is why I gave it 4 stars. So if you know in Twilight, right, you know the imprinting situation, you imprinted on my daughter? You know what I mean? That always made me feel kind of weird inside while reading Twilight, and I loved that series as, you know, a middle school girl. Loved it. And Wolfsong does have an element of that at the beginning, which I did push through my uncomfort to really get into the story, and the story was great. I was able to push through it, but there is that uncomfy nature to it. Anyways, What Lies Between Us by John Mars. This was a new author for me. I've never heard of John Mars. This was an interesting story. This was about a daughter who holds her mother hostage in the home that they grew up in the attic. Following along the dual point of views of both the mother and the daughter, which will eventually lead you to why is the mother locked up in the attic, forced to relive traumas, and the only time the mother is able to get out of the attic is to eat dinner with her daughter. It's a very strange family traumatic dynamic that really had my interest piqued, and I wanted to know what happened. Is it the mother's fault or is it the daughter's? Who's the bad guy in this situation? And that really had my wheels turning. I just really wanted to know what was going to happen at the end. Again, I would categorize this as definitely a popcorn thriller. I did give it 2 stars. Popcorn thriller books, I typically don't rate too high on a rating scale. I don't know, maybe I'm being a little harsh with my ratings, but I gave it a 2-star. It wasn't something that I continued to think about after the fact. After my thriller phase at the beginning of the year, I went into a bit of a nonfiction craze. Not craze. I read 2 nonfictions afterwards, which was Chelsea Handler's new book, I'll Have What She's Having, which is just a collection of comedic short stories about her life and the lessons that she learned along the way. And I really enjoy Chelsea Handler. I've loved her books and stories for a really long time. I think she's just a fun time. And I did give this just 5 stars. It was just fun all around. The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. I really enjoyed The Let Them Theory. There was a lot of incredible wisdom in the book, and as a chronic overthinker and people pleaser, The Let Them Theory was really influential and beneficial for my type of brain. Yeah, I ate it up. There was a lot in that book that I really took to heart, and I also gave it a 5 stars. I would highly recommend, if you are a chronic overthinker, people pleaser, somebody who is just in need of a bit of a, hey, stay in your lane, focus on your life, focus on what you can control, and let others be. Let them do what they will. It does not need to deeply affect your life as much as you let it. All right, and then the next book that I read in 2025 was The Tenant by Frida McFadden. I read quite a bit of Frida McFadden this year. I needed a lot of popcorn thrillers, and I had a fun time with it, I'm not gonna lie. The Tenant is about a couple who ends up moving in a roommate, I believe from like a Craigslist ad. This roommate, her name I think was Whitney, and everything's going great at first. Perfect for the couple's situation. They needed some extra money. Then things start going really weird, right? Like at first it's just kind of like, oh, the roommate ate our cereal or used our soap, or things were kind of moving around the house. Then it just divulges into pure chaos, pure chaos and paranoia on the husband's end, because we're reading from the point of view of, sorry, not husband, point of view of the boyfriend, who idea it was, I think, to move in Whitney. I'm pretty sure. There's a lot of chaos that just consumes his mind and paranoia, and it's a really twisty, tricky ride. I did give this one 2 stars. Now, the next book I read in 2025 was actually a romance. I switched gears and read Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, and this was my first Abby Jimenez book. I really, really, really enjoyed this book. I did give it 4 stars. The premise of the story is a curse. The curse of whoever I date, once we break up, ends up finding the love of their life and gets married. This man has this curse, and this woman, traveling nurse, also has this curse. They end up meeting through this Reddit post that centers around this bad luck. They end up colluding together to try to break the curse. Hey, what if we just date and then we break up and then we both find the love of our lives? And you know how that ends. You know how that's gonna end. It was so much more than I was anticipating. It was a really sweet story. The main female, she is a traveling nurse, and she is so just resilient and driven, and has a pretty traumatic upbringing and traumatic estranged relationship with her mother. That dynamic was so just incredibly realistic, and a dynamic that I've never seen written so well in a book, or even honestly many shows or movies. It was just really well done, and I felt a connection to the main character because of that, and how that storyline was explored. I think Abby did a really great job at exploring that estranged mother-daughter relationship in a way that was extremely realistic, and I just had a really strong connection to it. So I really enjoyed this book, and I do want to read some more Abby Jimenez books, but there's so many, and so I get kind of overwhelmed of like, I don't know which one to go into next, because For the Summer was like really connected with me, but I'm not sure if that was a one-off or if all of Abby Jimenez's books are like that. So anyways, because I was in a romance mood and I had just gotten off the high of For the Summer, I just thought, let's just go down from there. let's pick up a Colleen Hoover book. And so I read All Your Perfects, which this was definitely a popcorn romance book for sure. Very much my reality TV craving at play. I gave it 3 stars. I had a fun time with it. I'm not gonna lie. It was about this imperfect marriage, this couple having a lot of issues with infertility and whether or not they can find their spark back and their love for one another. A very troubled marriage. And I feel like Colleen Hoover just always will write a romance and just trauma dump on you. Like just so much trauma just for the sake of chaos and conflict. Moving on. The next book I ended up reading was actually a poem book, Autopsy of an Ex-Teen Heartthrob by Avon Jogia. Halsey's boyfriend, the man who was in Victorious on that Nickelodeon show, really centered around fame, rage, love, and depression, sadness, a whole slew of emotionally charged, testosterone-driven experiences. I connected with a few of the poems. I had a fun time with it. The next book I read is Cosmic Love at the Multiverse Hair Salon. This was a fun time. I gave this a 3-star. This was by Annie Mayer. This was just a cute, silly, fun time. This was a sapphic romance, played with the idea of alternate dimensions and finding love within the alternate dimensions and the difficulties of trying to make your timelines align with one another. Following these two women who fall in love via text messages. How do I want to explain this? A woman texts the main character and they have this kind of funny, sweet banter back and forth. They decide to meet up. Our main protagonist goes to the restaurant to meet up and she's not there, so she feels as though she's being catfished. But later on down the line, she ends up finding out that this woman that has been texting her is in a different timeline. It was really silly. The next book I read actually is one of my all-time favorite books, I think ever, but of this year for sure, is Of Monsters and Mainframes by Barbara Truelove. Ooh, this book was so good. Oh, this book was so good. It's a sci-fi horror of sorts, and you are following the point of view of a ship whose job it is to get humans from one planet to the next, which takes about 7 years. Every time she makes this trip, all of the humans die. And it's because of Dracula. You're following along the ship and her doctor AI robot as well, who works on the ship as the medical assistant. You get to experience their back and forth banter between the two of them as they are chaotically trying to figure out how to defeat Dracula and get humans from one place to the next safely. And it was just so hilarious and scary at times and also very sweet. It was just a whole array of emotions, and I gave this a 6-star. Like, I know that like you only rate up to 5 stars, but like if I have a favorite, that's what guarantees a 6-star. It's like, okay, you're a favorite. You're not just a 5-star, you're a favorite. You go into 6-star categories, even if that completely negates the concept of a 5-star rating scale. I don't care. This book was so good and I loved it so much. And I will take any opportunity to rant and rave and tell people to read this book because it was so surprising and sweet and I loved it. The next book I read, Meddling Kids by Edgar Quintero, and this was a paranormal thriller and I gave it a 3-star. It was fine. It was a good time following along a group of adults who used to solve crimes like the Scooby-Doo gang when they were teenagers. Very inspired by Scooby-Doo. It had some dark themes to it, but it was a fun time. It was a solid 3 stars for me and I enjoyed the ride. It was a good time. Okay, so What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. For anyone who hasn't heard of this book, this was really good. I really enjoyed it. It focuses on body horror, fungal horror, which I've never read a book with fungal horror. Giving this one 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I attempted to continue the series because within the universe, there's 3 books out so far, but I didn't enjoy the second one nearly as much. I made it like halfway through and it ended up being a DNF for me. But the very first one was perfect. It was Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. This was a really fun book. It is centered around a haunted house, and I love a haunted house book. I really have fun with haunted houses. You're following along our protagonist, who is an influencer of sorts. She grew up in a haunted house. Her mother ends up passing away, and so she inherits the home. She sees this as an opportunity to capitalize on the home and make money from it by renovating the home in order to sell it, but also record the process to her fans and make a lot of money. Yeah, the house is haunted. The house is haunted. Her mother was cast away as an addict who neglected her children. It's all about the deconstruction of her childhood trauma because of being raised with a mother who was an addict, who constantly fed the stories of this house is haunted. She learns. She's going to learn today. And she does. It was a good story. I enjoy Rachel Harrison's books. I think they're fun. I've read a couple. Because So Thirsty was the next book that I read, which is a vampire story. Rachel Harrison does a really good job at writing like imperfect female protagonists of stories that are suffering through something internal that they are having to fight within themselves and grow from. Our protagonist is facing a really challenging marriage that she is just settling for and is not actually happy in. Goes on a weekend birthday trip with her bestie, who is a bit more wild and free than her. And they end up meeting a group of vampires. And the story just goes from there. It's a really interesting take on a vampire story. I had fun with it. I gave it 3 stars. After reading Play Nice and So Thirsty, it got me in a paranormal romance mood. I ended up reading My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. My Roommate is a Vampire was so cute and wholesome and sweet. You're following along our protagonist who's a struggling artist. She gets a room off of Craigslist, and her roommate is a vampire, she finds out. But he's a centuries-old vampire that was in a comatose state for years and years and years. And so he is not up to date with the modern world, and he needs help to assimilate into the modern world. So it's about their journey, like teaching him how to order coffee at a coffee shop, how to do mundane daily tasks, like take the train, just really sweet. And it was a giggling to yourself, kicking your feet type of romance book. And I had a fun time with it. I gave it 4 stars. I want to read, what is it? I have it here. Road Trip with a Vampire. I'll probably get to this in October of 2026. I really liked My Roommate is a Vampire, so I'm really hoping that this will give that same type of magical, sweet, silly, kick your feet, giggly type of romance. I then went into the X-Hex, which I gave 3 stars to. I did have a fun time reading it though. It was sweet. It was cute. And so then after my paranormal romance stint, I got into Dungeon Crawler Carl. And let me tell you, this is one of my favorite series that I think I have ever read. I have not had this much fun reading a series, I think, ever. I usually give up on series. I get bored of the world. And so I've tried reading multiple different types of fantasy series. I tried reading ACOTAR, and I really enjoyed the first 3 books. And then that novella, was it the first 3 books or the first 2? I don't even remember. It was a while ago. But that novella, Frost and whatever, the little winter Disney Channel fucking 30-minute episode, pissed me off. I did not want a little novella after everything that had happened in ACOTAR, and so I have not finished that series. I don't think I ever will, to be honest. I also tried reading, what's the other one? The other Sarah J. Maas series, which I was really liking. I was actually liking that a lot more than ACOTAR, but I think I only got to book 4, Assassin's Blade. And then I was bored. I was trying to go through the book series in the way that people were saying that it would read best in, which is to read Assassin's Blade kind of in the middle of the series after you get to know the main character. I was bored. I was so bored. I was like, wait, why are you switching up on me like this? The way we ended the book prior that I read was so insane and crazy. And now I have to read about your start. Anyways, rant aside, all that to say is I don't have a good record of finishing out series ever, except maybe the Twilight series when I was in middle school, but I still have not read Midnight Sun. I read a quarter of it and was like, this is boring. I'm done. But Dungeon Crawler Carl has been so much fun, and I have not even finished the series, so there is still the possibility that I could give up on the series, but I don't think I will. And let me tell you why. It is hilarious. It is heartfelt. It is so incredibly exhilarating. It is that is the best way I could describe this series. I'm on book 3. I'm about to finish book 3. I'm just having so much fun. Dungeon Crawler Carl, the very first book, I gave 6 stars to. I think it was so well executed and so well written. I love the humor of the book. I love the cringiness of it at times too. The AI talking and explaining what certain loot means and what it does. I love it all. I love the connection of Carl and Donut. I think their relationship is just so sweet. I just love it. I could go on and on and on, but I'll stop myself there to move on to the next book that I had read, which is Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekula. This was a fun time. I gave it 4 stars. I was not anticipating the twist. This was a really, like, one of the best thrillers that I had read this year. It has pictures in it, which I think adds a lot of tension to the book. The book is about this woman who is a recovering drug addict, and she ends up getting a job as a live-in nanny to babysit this young boy. And he draws pictures. He's a little artist. He loves drawing. He's so sweet and shy and bashful. As she continues on babysitting him, the drawings get dark. Like, the drawings are of people dying or being dragged through the woods. Like, it gets really dark. Oh man, I'm just like thinking back on all the twists at the end that I was just not expecting.
The next book I read was The September House by Carissa Orlando. Like I mentioned, I love haunted house stories. It's a tale as old as time, and when they do it right, oh man, they do it right. And this book was a 5-star for me. It was so incredibly well done and made me have visceral reactions to characters. Ooh, let me just say, Catherine is one of the characters. Ooh, did not like her. But The September House, you're following along this married older couple. They end up buying their dream home. However, every September, it is incredibly haunted. And so it's like miserable to live in. The wife refuses to leave the house. She's sticking with it. She was like, this is my perfect home. I am just gonna live with the haunted spirits that reside here and make it work. The husband, not able to do it. And so he goes missing. And Catherine, their elder daughter, ends up coming to visit to try to help figure out where her father is. It was just so well done. It was so much more than just like a haunted house story, how it touched on such difficult topics and relationship dynamics, contrast and comparison between haunted spiritual horrors and real life horrors between domestic partners. It was good. It was so good.
I hope my mic wasn't out because my thingy wasn't fully connected. I went into a bit of a dark romance. I read Wolf by Paisley Hope. I gave this book a 3 stars. It was a fun time. It's a dark romance, motorcycle gang. It was giving Sons of Anarchy. And then I went back into thrillers. Ask Andrea by Noelle W. Eiley. I don't think I'm saying that correctly. Here it is. Ask Andrea. This book was another 5-star read for me. I loved the concept of this book. You're reading from multiple point of views, which I typically am not the biggest fan of because you always fall in love with one point of view more than the others. It was incredibly well done because the point of views that you're reading from are all different women who were murdered by the same serial killer. You get the storyline of how they met the serial killer and then how they died and then the afterlife and the pain and torment of realizing that their life has ended, and they all try to work together to haunt the serial killer. This was so well done. I hold it close to my heart. The next book I read was The Last One at the Wedding by Jason Rekula. Because I loved Hidden Pictures so much, I wanted to try out another one of his books. Not as good, but I still had a really fun time. I gave it 3 stars. You're following along a father who has an estranged relationship with his daughter, but is invited to her wedding. Family she's marrying into extremely wealthy. They're like owners of a tech business. He hasn't spoken to his daughter in so long and is invited to this wedding, and he just has this like sinking, gut-wrenching suspicion that something is incredibly off kilter. Something is wrong with her soon-to-be husband. And it was really good. It was a lot of twists and turns. The next one is Dungeon Crawler Carl. It's book 2, which is Carl's Doomsday Scenario by Matt Dinniman. And I gave this a 4-star. I didn't like it nearly as much as the first one. And that's, I think, in part because of book 2 felt scattered and unorganized in a way that didn't seem as intentional as book 1 and even book 3 that I'm currently reading. It didn't feel as intentional. It felt kind of astray almost for me because there's like a circus portion, and then there's like a prostitution ring portion, and I just felt kind of like scattered. I gave it 4 stars, which is still great, I'd say. I still had a good time with it. I just didn't necessarily like main plots of the book because it just felt a little too scattered for me in an unintentional way. Last book I read for 2025 was House of Rain by Harley LaRue. This is, again, dark romance of sorts. It was a good time. It was fun. I gave it a 3 stars, a decent story, and there was plenty of moments where I was definitely at the edge of my seat. I feel like I have a big theme this of 2025 where I read a lot of what I would consider like popcorn thrillers, popcorn romance, just kind of easy, digestible books because I had such a hard time this year with like reading. I think this year was a hard year for me. And so I needed just kind of easy books that were entertaining, you know, and nothing that I had to spend like excessive thought into per se. Just a lot of popcorn books. Give me all the like easy peasy reality TV style books this year. I think 2026, I'm ready to read some more genres this year. Lit fic, stories about people, more sci-fi. I'm really in a sci-fi mood. All that to say is those are the 26 books that I read in 2025. I'm so appreciative of being able to just like chat about books. This is the start of like my small YouTube journey, right? And I'm having so much fun. And I just want to thank you all for watching and subscribing and liking the videos, commenting. I really do appreciate it. And I'm excited for 2026 content creation and making more videos. Tell me what you would like to see. I'm still extremely new at this, and I'm just starting to get more comfortable with recording myself and talking to a camera. Still have much room for improvement and getting more comfortable. Anyways, I'm gonna quit yapping away. Thank you so much for hanging out. I will catch you next time. Bye!